Welcome to the PROCON podcast, hosted by Paul Vogels, with expert guest interviews, case study reviews, and insightful discussion topics. The PROCON podcast leads the project controls conversation.
Hello, guys and girls, and welcome back to a new episode of the PROCON podcast, where we are leading the project controls conversation. And as you all are aware, we're talking about episode 13, and we have divided the three themes: use cases, educational tracks, and the software specials. And today I have a very special guest on a software topic, which might not be the most familiar topic by the general public, but that's why we are going to have this podcast, because we want to educate and we want to experience what is there in the world of project controls. My guest today, Peter Kleinjan, a managing partner at CollaborAll at Buildworks, has a very strong experience and background in ERP systems, all kind of different ERP system, all related to building, to assets, to financial systems, etc. He will elaborate more on that. But first of all, Peter, thank you very much for joining our show.
I'm very happy to be with you, Paul. Thanks for the invitation, and looking forward to the discussion.
Yeah. Anything you want to add into your introduction there? Because you have a broad experience in software and solutions in project environments. What's the red line in your career path?
It's always sales of solutions, software solutions to construction industry related companies. And what I found, having worked with Oracle and SAP, the big brands, the market-leading brands, typically, and I should not say this because they also paid my paycheck, let's say, but these large brands, they are there to have as many users on their platforms as possible, and they offer solutions to their customers, and they listen to their customers. But then there are not many customers who are visionary in creating new stuff. I always say no one asked for an iPad, and no one thought of having to use an iPad before it was there. So there was a vision of something which could be helpful and everything. So, and we believe that we can offer a next step in that. And so through CollaborAll, we find, which is a networked organization. The word is CollaborAll with double L on the end to express the fact that we want to work together. We want to synergize our ideas together. And we don't aim for 1 + 1 is 3, but we aim for 1 + 1 is 11. 11 is also aligned with each other, and then, you have real benefit. So, it's difficult to find the right customers who want to work in this point of innovation, and it's also difficult to find the right people to deliver on this necessary innovation. But we are progressing. We have a nice group of people around us who use existing technology to simply because of the fact that it is adopted in the market. So you have to use it. You can't, we believe in change from within. Everyone talks about disruptive, and that's nice, but still buildings have to be built and plants have to be maintained, let's say. So you have to do it from within. So we take what is there and we bring it to the next level, sometimes with developing own software, connecting the stuff, in other cases, using the existing software in a smart way. We call the concept smart connected BIM. Smart stands for the business part of doing it. So, we don't aim for the nice picture in 3D, but we aim for the business value which is behind that 3D environment. So, that is it's in some simple words, a real big world behind it, let's say.
Yeah, I think that's a common, well, not mistake, but maybe misunderstanding. The theme of today is BIM, and BIM is building information model. And if you ask 10 people what is BIM for, I think 9 out of 10 people say, well, that's the nice 3D picture which you can zoom and et cetera, et cetera. And what you're saying, it's yes, it's a visualization, but it's the visualization of the information model where you connect and interface with all other stuff. So it's more about the I think the focus should be on model, on information model, and not on the picture.
I fully agree, and it's our belief that BIM is now much driven out of the authoring tools, like the Revits, the Teklas, the Bentleys, always when I mention names, I forget, but it's in general, these are, I think, the market leaders in that sense. But, the changes, and I have this example of, when I go on a holiday and I take pictures, 10 years ago, I would organize them in folders on my PC or to be able to find them again, holiday there, that place, that period in time. Now when we take a picture, creating data typically, and in this case it's a picture, so it's nice within the 3D feeling. It automatically records the place, the geolocation. I make the picture. It puts a timestamp on it, and I just save it in wherever,
probably in the cloud,
my iCloud or whatever, and then there are applications which are simply on my iPhone or on your Android. And you could say, go to that location and give me the pictures I've made,
So you don't have to make the choice.
You don't have any additional work, and it gives you much more easiness of finding and using the information. And that is how we believe the 3D part should be used. Imagine that with every line you record in the asset lifecycle, you add the spatial information, the piece of space you refer to it. How easy it would be to combine data without having classification system and all that stuff. It really brings the real world and the data world together. It's really cool.
And I think it gives you a platform as well. When I was studying as a programmer, early 90s, 2000, it had the concept of slicing and dicing was very common in business intelligence. You have to decide upfront which slicing and dicing you need in your cube. And now there's, with the update of my iPhone, it recognizes a bottle of wine, a bicycle, a car, etc. Without me as an end user saying, well, if it has two wheels and a bell, etc., then it's a bicycle. It's over the air. It gets smarter, and it's a picture. But I think the same applies to document management systems, building information management systems, where, for example, you were talking about Oracle, SAP, IBM, all the big names. Add this functionality to already existing platforms. You said nobody was asking for an iPad. I always use the Henry Ford said nobody wants a faster horse. They want something different. People think they need a faster horse, but actually we build a car. And I think that's the new enigma. If you go back to the building information model, a lot of people recognize the 4D BIM model, where you say, I have my 3D model, I have a planning, a schedule, which is about time. Which activity am I going to do at what time, at what object in the building information model? Is that the 1.0 version of a BIM model or a business information model? You think the scheduling?
You know that when our definition of BIM is referring to the asset lifecycle. So the physical asset, the life cycle starts with an idea, with planning. Then you have some design versions. You make a decision on which design you take. Then you start realizing it, building it. Then you have the handover to the operations. You have to operate it, and then you have to maintain it. Meanwhile, of course, and at the end, hopefully. It is available to recycle, to upcycle, and to have a new line. That is what we honestly believe. We also believe that there is waste in the different phases and the exchange of information in different phases. Mm-hmm. And basically, we aim to make sure that we capture that waste. We make sure that the data around the asset is captured, whether you are using a design system, a project planning system, whether it's a maintenance system. It doesn't matter. If it's about the asset, we aim to capture that throughout the life cycle and use it for everyone who is playing a role in his different role in a different phase. Yeah. So if you look at the 4D planning, which 4D planning is really well, I don't want to say a hype word, but a recognizable word, where we say 3D is about the spatial information. But if you add time to it, it becomes realistic. Because maybe you could also say a little bit philosophic about it is also the fourth dimension we live in. Now it's time in addition. Yeah.
But it helps understand for people to understand what we are doing. If we're looking at the schedule, because I completely agree with the plan, build, operate life cycle. If you're looking at initiative and planning phase, by changing the order in schedule, and the building literally plays a different movie as a different scenario, it's more easy for people to understand, because you can't see the difference between Schedule A and Schedule B, which might contain 50,000 lines if you change the sequence. So is it also for people to understand the difficulty of buildings nowadays?
Yeah, so in general, we believe that the 3D visualization is helpful to overcome the misunderstandings about what we have to do and how we exchange information. And so typically in the 4D world, it is then even more focused on this, because let's say that you are in the planning phase, so it's not and you are deciding what the right sequence of work would be. It is really helpful to have a 4D visual representation. A simple thing: imagine that you are going to build a bridge, and the sequence is that you first plan the bridge and then you plan the pillars. Not wise, I think. And then it's maybe a stupid example, but then you could say, if you visualize it, anyone can see, that there is missing the pillars. So the pillars need to be there first. Yeah. A stupid example, but it means that really low educated people, or let's say everyone, can understand it. So you don't need a high educated planner, which has everything in his mind, to see that the sequence is not right. Yeah. So and if you have these logical things and you have them in digitalized and you have them in coding, you can also write programs with the way you think you would check the program, the planning program. I always have to make the distinguish that in English, the program is the sequence of the tasks, and we always say planning, but it's the program you have to execute with tasks after each other, which you want to, which you can check. You can set rules.
And optimize maybe, because if you get your example of the bridge, how the concrete trucks are driving, that can be visualized. And I think logistics, so if you are building a bridge very remotely, there's no problem. But if you need to change the a palace in the center of Amsterdam, then your logistic will be very difficult, and even the existing hardware and building, etc. So it's also clarifies or makes it very visual what clashes can be there, what opportunities, what risks, etc. So it's really to keep it simple, stupid methodology you are visualizing, which people can understand. Even my son of 11 years old can understand that you need to build the pillar first and then the deck of the bridge.
But that's completely right. But maybe for the people who are not experienced in this 4D world, everyone can understand a 3D. It's a visualization of a situation in one certain point in time. Yeah. You can have different angles of looking at it, but if you need to build it, and you can say, okay, I do the sequence. I start with the piles, then I start with the floors, and then the walls, whatever. But to make that work, you also need to use temporary materials like scaffolding and everything. So also in the 3D model, somewhere you need to visualize the scaffolding. So basically, it's like a comic book. Yeah, in the old days, you had these books you would look like, and it's many different moments in time, visualizations in time you have after each other. And if you do that in a smart way, you could also derive the cost out of it. Because if you know that from week 3 to week 10 you have scaffolding, you can also say, the scaffolding I need to rent for 10 weeks. Yeah. Yep. So based upon the 3D model, adding the time, it opens really the opportunity to create business value out of it. A 3D model, sorry to say, guys, but the 3D model does not bring you any business value. It helps you selling the idea, let's say. But if you want to really execute on it, you want to deliver on it, you need to do more. Yeah.
Yeah. It's to make it consumable for not the experts and not the subject matter experts. So what you're saying is, so we start with the 3D model, which is the picture of Curacao. Then there's a lot of automatically tracked geospatial recognition of faces. I can look in my iPhone and say, give me all the pictures of my grandmother or my mother-in-law or a friend, Peter, in this case, and it will recognize it. But in the building information model, you can say from 4D, we go, for example, to 5D, which is cost or to risk, and then add additional dimensions. And I think that's the bridge, and not the physical bridge without the pillars, but the real bridge to what we say a common data environment. That's also hyped a lot. It's not about technology. It's about the more strategic thinking about what do we want to manage? Where do we create business value in our asset, in our building? If you look from a contractor point of view or an owner point of view to the plan, build, operate life cycle, you might want to invest a little bit more into your building because you earn the money in the operational and the maintenance or even in a transformation. In the building environment right now, we are transforming ugly office buildings into really nice apartments. If you think about it before, it might bring you business value over the complete life cycle. So then I think that back to the bridge, if we're talking about common data environment, if we're really talking about the value, the business value in a BIM system, because we're not talking about the model anymore. It's not just about the model. It's about the process. It's about the people. It's about the tooling, etc. How do you look at the transformation? Where are we, for example, right now? If you talk to your clients about common data environment, do you see lights or do you say, Peter, what are you talking about?
The term common data environment is again a large term. It's the word common. It's the word data. What is data? But there is one thing missing, and that is how this data is integrated with each other. You can say that SharePoint. If you use one SharePoint, you have a common data environment. And now I come to in my mind really the real problem keeping the industry from moving forward, and that is the difference between database-driven information providing, or document-based distribution of information.
Yeah.
You have to imagine that the leading brands in the authoring world, they all use, they not all, most of them, but the number 1, 2, and 3, the technology is based on document sharing.
Yep.
And the world consists of what version of the document are you working on, and some of them now have a cloud environment where they say we have a central model, which you can use with multiple engineers in it. But still they talk about the document and the version of the document they work on. In the ERP world, and I don't know if many of the listeners have an idea on it, but maybe someone has ordered something within the company. If you issue a purchase order in an ERP system, no one asks you about the status of the purchase order. That's strange. Yeah. In the BIM world, it's strange because what is the status? Is it updated? It's always updated, but you only add information. First, you have a request. Can you please purchase it for me? It is then purchased. Maybe you have a delivery on it. Maybe you have an invoice on it. So you only add information to that typical object. And in my mind, that is the way you should also add information to the objects in the BIM world. But now the object, the 3D visualization of the object, is in a file. It's captured in a file. So, and then you have the downside. If you have a very large project, you might have 200 files you have to manage. But that's easy to cope with. You just hire 10 BIM coordinators, and they keep track of the versions of the files which are used and everything.
Yeah. Those are the old clerks. Without the card, they are literally bringing one file from one desk to another desk.
I don't want to say they're old, but because there are still, honestly, Paul, there are still young people educated by universities in this technology. Yeah. I find it appalling. Because they are the new workforce. We should come up with a approach that data which sits in a document. A document is only a container to exchange information, and then you put it somewhere central, and then the information has one place where you still can say I have different versions still. But then there are some scenarios. This is scenario 3 weeks. This is scenario 4 weeks. Maybe that's, but if you have it in one space, no one disputes the version of the data. It's always, it's the same origin of the data.
It's a single source of truth methodology.
Single source. Yeah, that is. Yeah. And I'm not saying that all the data should be in one typical source. I'm not saying it should be one database. No. But it should be one place where the same data is managed, let's say.
Yeah, there's only one owner of a data set.
Yeah, and then still we have to cope with the market. Yeah, simply the market leading solutions are document based. We know each other quite a while, and my history that I had the pleasure to meet UK-based people who developed a solution for this, and they extract the data out of the authoring tools, or they use IFC to put it in one environment, so that they make it CAD agnostic, and then they start running the whole 4D, 5D, 6D. Everything necessary to deliver a project based upon data on one side, which is visualized in 3D on the other side. Yeah. So I have a history, and that we can make that work. The downside is that they are not the market leaders yet. So the market leaders are still document based. So we need to cope with that situation. That is where we, fortunately, in combination with customers who give us who embrace the thought leadership. We share the thought leadership on this, let's say, and they allow us to connect the existing solutions in the market in the sense to harmonize it for once and for all, let's say.
Yeah, but if you look back at Tesla, for example, with the first electrified car, it was not electrified diesel car, but it was a whole new concept of building a car. They were not the market leader 5 years ago. They are the market leader on electric mobiles right now. And I think that's the change we need to see, and change always takes a long time, and especially when university and high schools, etc., are educating in only proven technology, because there's no university who's going to educate in a trend, because once the guys or girls get out of school, they don't know if the trend is still alive or not. You embrace it's not just about the tool. The tool in a file or in a database is not the key to the Pandora box. It's people believing in that. It's the process you need to define, because the process can be a file going from one desk to another, or a process running from one PC to another PC where you add data to a table or to a database, etc. And if you want to see the document, you produce it on the fly to say, give me the latest version of the document. And that's, I think, the process which is changing.
Put it in the container you want to ship it with, because you have to transport it, because someone else doesn't have direct access to your environment, and you put it in a container and then you ship the information. That's typically where it is for, indeed.
And I think this common data environment, it gives you a platform to the collaborative working. What you see right now is that all people, and not just only the owner of the system or the owner of the building, but everybody who is a stakeholder, either it's a quantity surveyor or the clerk or the receptionist or whatever, everybody who is using the system or the asset is collaborative working on this environment. And I think traditional tooling said, okay, I am the owner of the building, I have my system, I'm contractor A, I have my other system, and we both come with a different version of this container, of this document, and then let's compare where the differences are. And now you can work in one version of the truth. Yeah. Do you also see, because we're talking about plan, build, operate, I think this is very important nowadays in the plan and build phase. That's where it's more accepted right now. If you're looking at operational and maintenance parts, etc., is the influence of sensorizing or smart buildings also helping to sell this concept, that you can see how warm it is, so the operational part can adjust, or the window is broken, I can issue in my BIM model, I can issue something, because we all need to know the digital twin, what has been built and what has been planned 100% is different, because there's always changes, etc. If you work in one environment with everybody, does that help selling this collaborative and common data environment?
Same answer with the visionary people. It's the market is divided. You have a service provider, you have an asset owner, you have a contractor for the design, you have a contractor for the build, and maybe for the maintenance. So there is no one in the world who is asking for a common data environment. And the common data environments which are now used, they are project centric, and that is only a small phase of the asset lifecycle. Yeah. Yep. So what we aim for is that we serve all these different phases in the life cycle. We compete with niche solutions in there, but the one additional benefit we offer is that we have the same background for the contractor as for the service provider, as for the asset owner, when it is about asset data in that sense. And when you refer to sensor data and smart buildings and smart cities, again, it depends on who you are, and how you define what is necessary to have a smart building. And again, an example, not naming names, but the market leader, I think, in real estate management solutions. They offer superb capabilities of organizing your building into a space or an office or floor, and within that you have to follow some rules that you say everything above the ceiling is part of that room or not, and they've invested in these structures and everything. Yep. But if you have a 3D model, I don't care about it, because I can draw a box around a room, let's say, and I can write a program saying the size of this box is sectioned by pipes and by things. So what is in it, what is out of it. Yep. And so you can interrogate based upon geo information, spatial information in another way. Yep. So you don't need to organize or to classify things thoroughly. So you don't need to upfront agree upon all kinds of different rules. And I'm not saying that standardization is not beneficial, because if you have it and it is adopted by the market, market standards are very helpful. Yeah. But they should not keep you from finding from using new technology. Most of the standards are the result of the lack of capabilities of current technology available.
It's the miscommunication they want to avoid at the end. But what you're saying is, if you have a system which is capable of slicing and dicing later on, go back to your picture from Curacao, over the air you can recognize palm trees right now. Well, that's great. You don't need to define upfront that, this is a picture with a palm tree and a bottle of wine. And
we have a beautiful example of this where we run some point clouds. The BIM people know what point clouds are. With a laser scanner, you scan an environment, and basically what you do is you just you put some points in an environment of which that the distance between your scanner and where the light reflects, it's a point, let's say. Yep.
It's like a 3D scanner for the people who are not familiar with the point cloud. Everybody have seen this on your virtual reality iPhone capabilities right now. You scan the building later on, or even during build.
And then the example I was about to give is, for example, in the public space, because if you want to do smart things in smart cities, I believe you need to have a 3D representation, a spatial representation, a spatial representation in time. So the representation today might be different than tomorrow. So you also need 4D, maybe not in planning, but in planning. That's what we discussed. But also in history, let's say, you need to know how it looked like when you made the picture, let's say, so if you have the 3D scan, as you said, available, imagine that you and I would look at that scan and we would recognize a lantern, a light pole, let's say. But and why is that? Because they have a kind of sequence. The points have a distance. What is the right word in English? They have a structure which you and me, people, recognize that it is a lantern. Yep. Imagine that you could say, okay, this combination of points in these settings, it's a lantern. Then you can also write a program saying, please look at the rest of my point cloud, of my scan, if there are singular combinations of points, and they might be also a lantern. And then you can automatically recognize that, and then you can populate the actual world and make 3D out of it. So there's technology available, and if I may look at CollaborAll, we typically, people ask us, do you have BIM managers available? it's not typically what we do. We hire data scientists, and yes, we also have civil engineers. And we have people who understand how BIM engineering authoring is done, because we need to do something with it. Yep. But it's the data scientists and the civil engineers, or the building engineers, which together think of these smarter solutions.
Smart
using visualizations.
I put it in practice at what you've seen earlier, and I think if you look at construction and engineering, it's one of the least digitized industries in the world. I think agriculture is last, and then construction engineering. I think you see right now the changes of sensorized on drone scanning. We're also on progress. If you get your example from lanterns into bricks, a drone can fly around every day or every hour. Say, okay, now I have 3 layers of bricks, and now I have 5, and now I have 12, and the end goal is 20. So how's my progress? That's something.
Compare your 4D planning with your actuals. From visualized.
Sensorized smart technology. If you look at it to the business, so you don't need somebody who is counting bricks or is counting lanterns. There is also from a clash detection point of view, what we see, for example, and I think we talked about this before, in a chemical plant. If you have somebody who's doing something with pressure, then you can see a clash within 20 meters. If somebody is heisting something, you don't want to work underneath this work. If you have X-rays in the piping, etc. I think we talked about a prison example where sensors are used to build maps at the end. Where are the risks? Where do we need additional bars, walls, sensors, etc.? And that's something where the picture and the data is going to help to deliver value, I think, to the business.
But only the combination of these two, Paul. That is important to understand. A nice picture, honestly, only helps you selling the great model the architect has thought of. But the data really brings the value.
It's a little bit unfair to us, because I think we are both tech-loving people. Although we are in sales and commercial functions, I think we are tech-savvy as well. Everybody is looking at how nice the picture is, how cool the 3D model spins, how cool the digital twin is. Where the value is behind it. It's in the data point, in the data cloud environment, for example.
Yeah. But the other side, so it's maybe to stress it again, it's the combination. The data only, that's what we old school already have. But now with the visualization, again, about you refer to Curaçao. Yes, my holiday location, that's why I'm a little bit more tense than normally in December, let's say. But that is exactly the combination between the spatial information and the normal relational data, which you capture throughout the life cycle, and you enhance it throughout the life cycle as needed for that phase, for the relevant roles there. That is the approach we are taking, and we are puzzling all these pieces together that we can have an integrated asset life cycle approach. I really liked, the PM web approach. One of the predecessors in the PROCON podcast. It's kind of the same origin, all kinds of different systems, and they thought, why can't we make one solution for everything relevant for the project control environment, and they didn't think, we should use this and this and this. They just came up with something new, and they just innovated the industry in that.
Yeah, it's not the faster horse. I think indeed that PM Web is a new car. It's really asset based, and I think that's one of the few software solution providers who is focusing on asset management and construction management during the complete life cycle, plan, build, operate. Of course, they are using BIM very much as well, not from a producing point of view, but from they integrate with BIM models, for example, to combine cost data or asset management data to the actual model.
Yeah.
And I think the key word on PM Web is the integral. They integrate all. We like to discuss about knowledge areas, time, cost, scope, resources, risk, all kind of things, changes, whatever you might have on that. They integrate it into each other
throughout the life cycle, the project and asset management. That's the.
Wrapping up a little bit, Peter. 5 years ago, when you had a P6 schedule and a BIM file, and you could combine it and play a movie, you were the coolest kid on the construction site. And now they say, well, that's a little bit old school. We need a cloud BIM viewer or cloud BIM common data environment, because I want to see how much bricks I need to order, how many scaffolds, how many weeks I need to rent the scaffolding, etc. I want to see that we can't do construction work while hoisting a rebar over it, etc. What if, and I know we can't look into the future, but what if in 5 years? What do you think the adaptation and I think the awareness on collaborating on BIM, on collaborating data environments would be like? Is then the digital twin the P6 schedule from now, or how do you envision it with CollaborAll, for example?
You know me being a very opportunistic guy, so I always when I first started in this industry. Maybe 20 years ago, I felt like, I'm really going to change this one, really going to make impact. 20 years later, and actually in Curaçao, I met my old MD of SAP, and he typically said, where are we in changing the construction industry? And I said, I'm over the half, so I'm maybe at 60%. That's it's an optimistic answer, but I first, I want to say I do believe if we approach it from added value instead of treating technology as geek tooling and everything, it is really business value we're at. We sometimes we have some discussions and they say, no, you need to put something in digital twin. You need to do this and this for the digital twin. No. What we do is we optimize the actual work. And because we add the spatial data, the result is that you have a digital twin. So we don't aim for the digital twin. And that is, I hope that this way of thinking is adopted so that connecting spatial information to object relevant data becomes the standard. Then I really believe that we will make additional progress. It's also necessary, Paul, because especially the Western part of the world, which has to cope with a lack of human resources. We need to build more efficient. We need to build more because in the Netherlands, I think we need to build. Some people say 1 million houses in the next 10 years or so, I think. But whatsoever, a lot. We have we don't have too much skilled people, so we need to automate. We need to do things in a smart way. We need to do in a conceptual, modular way. We need to think that way. And I see the market moving with. For example, the modular way of house building, with companies like Daiwa House, a big Japanese experienced modular home builder, which is now entering the European market, which is going so fast. With an approach where they say, we still build your personalized house, but we offer it, we deliver it through a modular approach. A lot of money is behind it, so I really see that the industry is changing in that sense.
Yeah. The momentum is coming, and the snowball is rolling, and we've reached that tipping point where we are going to accelerate. The foundations are laid for it.
Yeah, and I hope And it is not disrespectful to the current market leaders and everything, but I also see them changing over the last 1 to 2 years. But I think the most important thing is to aim to have a database-driven approach of the whole thing. If you and I know you're wrapping up, but maybe one thing for everyone to think of. Imagine how you booked a hotel or a trip before booking existed. This is game changing, and that it could only happen because it's centralized information, not typically cloud based, because cloud is only a way of delivering. It's a central place where demand for a hotel room and the supply of having an hotel room available is put in one place and is matched. Yep. And basically, that is also where it is about.
It's not the file anymore where you looked up your hotel in Curacao. It's going online, say, hey, give me 3-star, 4-star. I want a pool. I want etc. What's the latest version of the brochure right now? And we skip all the full hotels because you're not interested in that one.
Exactly, and that is the whole mechanism. And I hope that the industry will adopt that way of thinking.
Yeah, and I think to indeed conclude that, because you know what's the saying with cliches, they are always true, and I think this is number 13, I'm going to say, because it's episode number 13. We could talk about this for years, but I think to conclude, it's not just about tooling, although this is the software special, but the tool is a facilitator to the people, processes, and tools. And I think Formula One is really hot at the moment in the Netherlands. Once this episode is broadcasted, I hope we have the new world champion on Formula One next week. Give me the car of Max Verstappen and I won't be faster at my work because I probably a really bad Formula One driver. So it's not just about the tool, it's also about the process of driving something. It's about the people, Max in this case, how to drive it on a decent manner.
Exactly.
So I think that's a very good conclusion.
And the collaboration of the team behind it.
Because without his engineers, Max wouldn't be at the place where he is right now, and vice versa, because they need to interact. They need to collaborate. I think that's a good way of saying this. Peter, we really need to wrap this up. Thank you very, very much for contributing to our PROCON podcast. A little word to the viewers. You are going to be blinded by the sun at this moment. That's also about timing. If you are very interested in this kind of podcast, please subscribe yourself at PROCONpodcast.com. You can also listen and view this on Apple, Google, Spotify, and whatever platform you are using. It's the tool, it's not just the process. If you are interested, if you have a very nice use case about BIM or project controls or integrated project controls or planning, etc., please reach out to us. We are more than happy to have you here because we really want to lead the project controls conversation, and we need the people for that. For now, thank you very much for listening to this BIM special. Peter Kleinjan, Managing Partner, CollaborAll, thank you very much for contributing to our podcast.
Thank you very much, Paul. Wishing you a lot of success and a good Christmas period.
Yes,
cheers.
You too. Thank you very much, Peter.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the PROCON podcast. To listen and watch more episodes, you can subscribe and access the resources mentioned in this episode by visiting PROCONpodcast.com. We look forward to seeing you on our next episode, where we will continue to lead the project controls conversation. The PROCON podcast and the associated resources is published under copyright to Premoned. All rights reserved, no reproduction of this content is permitted.